Okay, you have to unmute it.
No, yeah, he doesn't appear to even have audio.
Oh, okay.
So why don't we get started?
Frank, it's just not live yet, so just give me 1 second. And
Okay, yeah.
We're missing John Gillivan. Is that right? Is he not coming?
He didn't mention to me one way or the other that he was or he wasn't.
Okay. Just give me 1 second until it says it's live. Should be any minute.
Les, if you can hear me, you can call in on the phone too and do the audio from the phone and use the video.
Yep, it's live. It's live. Go ahead.
Okay. Want to welcome everybody to this month's Colony Village Traffic Committee meeting. I would still like to start out by pledging allegiance to the flag. So if we could do that together. Pledge allegiance
To the
to the
flag.
flag of the United States,
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
All right, and that being said, I want to welcome everybody back. It's been a tough year so far. We're still in a somewhat state of lockdown, but we're able to have these meetings via the web. So thank you all for being patient and joining us. We have on the agenda minutes from February 11th meeting. Did everybody get a chance to look at those minutes?
I did.
I don't show receiving them.
Was that George?
I didn't show receiving it.
You didn't receive it, you said.
No.
Jason, you're on. Did you have a chance to read them?
I did, yes.
Okay, I'm assuming.
George, did you get? They were. Why am I still?
I got you, Dan.
George, they were in the original email that got sent out from Alex. Look back on March 2nd.
Yeah, I'm not gonna look back. It took me, I went back looking again.
Don't touch it. Mr. Lashoff, I'll make sure you get a copy of
Took a
those
while to
tomorrow.
get back to you, so I'm not gonna check now.
Yeah,
All right.
that's fine. I'll send you a copy.
I do have 2 edits.
Okay, what is that, Dan?
First of all, my recollection in the 3rd paragraph, it was you, Mr. Chairman, that announced that the committee had gotten the grants from Senator Breslin's office, not me, as I recall.
I had announced it, correct.
Yeah, so that needs to get changed from Mr. Hornick to Chairman Privitel.
Okay.
And then on the next page in the paragraph that starts, Mr. Judge stated.
Mhm.
And at the end of the paragraph, when it talks about Mr. Hornick suggesting splitting a pair of signs on shorter streets, I did also include Harriet in my list of streets that we might want to think about splitting a set on. So I'd like the minutes to reflect that. And those were my only 2 changes.
Okay, I've noted those amendments.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion to accept the minutes as amended by Mr. Hornick?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Hornick. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Judge,
Yeah,
second.
Judge.
Thank you. All in favor?
All right.
No opposed? So moved. Okay. Next thing on the agenda is correspondence from Barb Candy from Fuller Terrace, and Barb has a letter which I would hope all of you were able to get. I'll do my best. It was, hi Alex, I hope you are well. Unfortunately, I'm writing this email as a strong complaint for traffic on our street. I was just passed by a neighbor while driving home. Luckily, I hadn't started to turn into my driveway yet, or she would have T-boned me doing well over 25 miles per hour, or doing well over the 25 mile per hour speed limit. I'm at the end of my rope with the speeders and inconsistent drivers, and am looking for some kind of solution. Big request, I know, as I type, the UPS truck just went flying by. Last summer, we had the speed monitor on the street for quite a while. It showed a few down. I'm reading, it said, I slowed a few down. It slowed a few down, but as soon as it moved out, everyone started speeding again. People run the stop sign on a regular basis. I'm assuming she's thinking the stop sign at, is there one at Barker or something that she's alluding to? There's a stop sign in Fuller Terrace. But anyway, she says people run the stop sign on a regular basis, and I'm really concerned about it getting even worse with the good weather. I'm sorry to vent at you. I think you know I don't get this agitated easily, but I've been watching things get progressively worse, and I think the other residents feel the same, except the only that just passed me. I would assume she means the one that just passed her. Please let me know if there's anything you can do to help out. Barb Candy, Fuller Terrace. Thanks, Alex. So,
Frank, this is Danny Judge. Can we ask Jamie? Jamie, is Barbara online, or is there anyone online, YouTube, besides the committee people? Is there anyone else out there that's listening?
I mean, it's live. I can't tell I can't tell in real time if anybody is listening, but she might be out there listening.
All right. Okay. Hey,
Unfortunately, I can't connect with somebody in that regard, but I think a lot of the time, especially our other virtual meetings, they write something in like this. It's discussed. We hope she's out there listening, and then we can, deliver a response to her.
Okay. Another thing right now, I just got a call. I'm off screen. I got Les from our traffic committee trying to call me, and he must be having issues. So is there anything we can say online to help him get his issues resolved?
I think he's on the web base, and then somebody else just signed on with their phone. I think that's how he's going to do his audio. So I think he's working on the problem.
Okay.
From what it looks
All right.
like.
Yeah, I didn't want to answer him because I'm afraid I'd lose you. So
Yeah.
he's trying to get on.
We're
well,
here. We're
as
here.
long as what's that? I'm sorry.
Atlas,
There he is.
Perfect.
There you go.
I'm on my daughter's smartphone.
Hey,
Okay.
that's perfect. It works out.
That's gonna keep her here, and she's gonna, eat me out of house and phone here or
That's
whatever.
not true. I'm gonna go pick up something and then I'm gonna come back to get my phone.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Let's just tell her the meeting should be over by midnight.
No.
be over by midnight. She'll have, the freezer will be empty by then.
Well, on that note, let's just continue right along. I don't have until midnight. Yeah, so I mean, we've heard they complain about speeding on that street, and I think it's a good segue into some of the things that we're going to be talking about under the new business. If I could, I'm going to jump right to where the new business is. It says four-wheelers, dirt bikes driving throughout the village. That was, I was made aware of that. And Jason, I know you were also made aware of that. I sent you some pictures. I believe you got them correct.
I did, yes.
And who was that originally sent those to us?
Mickey
Yes, right.
Angler.
Angier. Yep.
Right. She told me before the last meeting that she wasn't gonna go to the meetings, and I believe you called her, or you were going to call her?
I did. I called her. I spoke to her about it. I encouraged her to continue to come to the meetings. She then sent me, and really the reason why she didn't want to continue to come to the meetings because she knows we're doing everything we can. She just feels like it's a losing battle. Every time that she looks out her door or window, she's on the corner of, I know it's Harriet and I want to say Woolard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she looks out, she sees something else going on, and she did have pictures. I mean, she right after I got off the phone with her, she snapped some more photographs of a dirt bike and a quad riding down, and so I mean, she's got legitimate concerns, but in my opinion, just my opinion, if anybody else wants to chime in on this, I think making Jason aware is our number one ability here, because this is a law enforcement issue. And I mean, would you agree, Jason?
Absolutely. We've just stepped up our enforcement efforts on Lincoln Avenue in hopes of eliminating some of the bigger complaints from the surrounding streets, whether it be the cut-throughs or the four-way stops, the speeds of the dirt bikes, the overweight trucks. The last 3 days, there's been a big increased presence, especially during the morning and afternoon hours. And unfortunately, it's been a very successful 3 days in terms of enforcement. So we'll continue to hit Lincoln and then some of the surrounding areas in hopes that if we can grab a dirt bike while we're sitting on Lincoln Avenue, or some overweight trucks, whether it's the solar company on Petra, you know, we're trying to kill two birds with one stone, because we know Lincoln Avenue is the main thoroughfare for that entire neighborhood.
Jason, my experience in the past has been that with the dirt bikes, it's usually like one or two kids in the neighborhood, and once you grab onto them, it helps to curb the problem. Is that still the case, you think?
Unfortunately, sir, it's not quite as effective as it has been because of the environment that we're currently in with law enforcement. We're not getting cooperation from the parents like we used to.
Okay.
But we're hoping if we can latch on to one, at least hold on to it, we'll divert some of the problems. I mean, we're getting issues now where there's groups coming from the city of Schenectady and they're traveling down Central Avenue to Albany and vice versa. So
Jason,
it's
they're
a
doing that in
huge-
large groups too, right? Is that what
Yeah.
I'm hearing?
Yep, 30 to 40 of them.
If I could say too, guys, just so we know that this is not just an Albany Colony Village thing. I mean, this is pretty much nationwide. You know, Springfield, Massachusetts, Boston, you name it. There's the same complaints, and it's the latest craze where people just want to do whatever they want to do. They want to evade the law. I think the good thing here is we have a wonderful police department. We have complaints. We give Jason, who is our liaison, pictures or tell him streets. And you know, I've worked very well with Jason. Anytime that there's a complaint or a problem, you know, the deputy mayor gives me a list of things. I call the residences. I immediately get back to Jason. And Jason, you've always responded. I've never heard anything negative. I think we're doing the right things. I think that the problem is, if anybody's listening from the village or on the YouTube, it's not something we're just going to continue to allow to happen. They're going to be reported every time, and the police department are going to do the best they possibly can. I think more awareness is better. So anybody that does see these things happening, make sure you're able, if you can snap a picture, snap a picture. If you can get an ID number of some kind, if you can get a good face shot without standing in the middle of the road, obviously, you know, anything, any information. You might be able to track the bikes down to a certain household, and you might be able to get the number down. Anything like that helps in any situation, whether it's people dirt biking or speeders or you know, UPS trucks, try to get an ID. You know what time of the day they were on your street. That helps when Officer DePaula is trying to investigate these things, correct?
Absolutely. Every little detail can lead us to the right house.
Frank, could I ask you if you could contact the resident from Fuller Terrace as the chairman and just speak to her, tell her that we have gotten her complaint, and also give her Jason's information?
I will do that. I'll just
And see if we can get a number on Fuller Terrace, because once the weather changes, hopefully by April, we will put the speed counter out and see if we can get an idea of the magnitude of the problem and the time or whatever. But I just don't know which part of Fuller Terrace she's from. So if you could
I'll try to
help us
get in
with
touch
that.
with her to get a number so I can talk to her better. I have the email. I have her email. I'll reach out to her.
Alex, if I can, Alex does know her. She grew up with her children. Alex did, so we can definitely get that from her too.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, if you could have Alex give me a call with the phone number of Barb, and I'll be glad to call her back.
Okay, absolutely, will do.
Thank you.
If I
Absolutely.
could chime in here, Ed, you just answered my biggest question, when the village was going to start looking to put out the speed counters, and we're looking for April now.
Well, it's a weather thing, Dan. It's, we don't want to be plowing with those things down. So, I guess the best bet is April,
Right.
Now,
And I like your idea that maybe we move Fuller Terrace to, first on the list or around first on the list when we can put them out.
Yep, we will.
that'd be
Definitely.
great, Dan. I agree. That'll help me when I talk to Barb to let her know that that'll be first on the list.
Yeah, if we can just find out which part of Fuller Terrace, because the problem is we put it on Fuller Terrace, we think where we think it is, and it always turns out to be the wrong place. So just want to make sure we have it in the right place. That's all.
You've
Hey,
got it.
Frank, Danny Judge here. That letter you read to us from Barbara,
Yeah.
right next to her name on the top of it, it's got her email, if you're looking for that.
No, I have that. I have that.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Yep. That's, so I'll get back to her and we will, hopefully let her see that we're doing something here. So I thank you all for that, working together. I'd like
I
to move
drove,
on.
I missed earlier, I suppose, but I drove down Fuller Terrace and the other end is Tattersall. So it would seem to me that it would be mostly the locals. And I believe that was her letter that she said it was one of her neighbors that was doing the speeding.
Yeah.
Am I correct in that?
There was an issue with a black Honda, I think, which I addressed.
Okay, I missed earlier, so.
But I will definitely find out more when I talk to Barb and see if there's anything else going on and what we can do to help her. So
I
and I'll get
just
back
think
to
it's
you.
important when we get the complaints that we follow up with the people and let them know that we are listening to it and we're doing some of the things that we can do.
Absolutely, I agree. So if I could move right along, I know that there's lawn sign placements. I'd like to do that last because then I'll let Mr. Judge, explain how that's going to work. So I'd like to proceed to the speed counters and Deputy Mayor, just so you know, last meeting we did discuss the speed counters. I think that's a fantastic gift we were given. I believe it was from Senator Breslin, correct?
Correct.
And so we should all thank him. That was great. And we had a total count of, if I'm not mistaken, there were 10 of them.
Yes, that's what we're planning on trying to do,
Yes.
is 10 of them. We haven't gotten a final say of when we're going to actually get the final part of the approval of the grant. We've been told that it's been approved, but we don't have the funds yet, so I can't tell you exactly when we're going to do it. Hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have a better idea for that.
I see Mr. Hornick's hands up.
No, I forgot to lower it from before.
All right. But anyway, that's great. We got the 10. Just so you know, we did discuss it at last meeting. We had, if I'm not mistaken, we had a few streets that were kind of no-brainers when we were coming up with criteria. We knew that we wanted, Mr. Hornick, would you like to talk about the criteria that we came up with? We were talking about criteria.
Well, what happened was Kevin came up with, he kind of put everything together and emailed around to all of us a set of draft criteria that I think, and he even highlighted some parts where we might want to tweak what he came up with, but overall, I think what Kevin sent us is fabulous. And I think we would be well served to just kind of go through the draft that Kevin made and just tweak it to the committee's, liking and, move it forward. I don't know if the village board would need to approve it or if it's an internal working document for this committee. But I think what Kevin did, he took practically all the ideas that we batted around and put them in one document. So I think we should be using that as our starting point for discussion.
Well, I bring that up because I didn't see it. I'm sure, Kevin, I think you're here with us. I'm sure that you did send it to me.
On the computer.
I never saw it or whatever it came through. I don't know.
I'm sorry I didn't get it. I'm trying to get a copy of it in front of me. I don't have my copy in front of me. I'm not sure if everybody else has a copy.
I do.
Okay.
Do people want me to just read it?
Fine. Yep.
Okay, it's labeled Village of Colony Traffic Committee Preliminary Draft Recommended Criteria for the Installation of Driver Feedback Signs. All right, that's the first part. Goal: to develop a set of policies or criteria for addressing traffic management issues in residential areas within the Village of Colony. Criteria 1: driver feedback signs shall be installed on residential streets. That was point 1. Point 2, traffic studies shall be conducted on streets being considered for driver feedback signs to determine if actual speeding problems exist, where on that street or in what area would be the most effective placement. That's criteria 2. Criteria 3, traffic studies should confirm that the 85th percentile speed in the area is, and this is where Kevin kind of left us, recommended leeway, is 10 miles over the posted speed limit or a minimum of 40%. And again, that's a number that we should discuss according to Kevin's document, of all vehicle traffic on the street is exceeding the posted speed limit. Criteria 4, driver feedback sign shall only be considered on streets with an average daily traffic volumes between, and again, this is another area where he left it open for our feedback. He drafted at between 500 and 1,200 vehicles. Criteria 5, streets with a history of reported accidents involving excessive speed and or horizontal or vertical alignments which can cause limited sight distance should be considered candidates for driver feedback signs. And number 6, driver feedback signs shall not be used on streets currently using other traffic calming measures such as speed humps, multi-way stop intersections. Guidance, location and installation, driver feedback signs are permanent structures and are not to be used as a temporary solution. Traffic studies in accordance with traffic engineering practices should be used when determining the most appropriate location, but accessing the proper utilities may dictate otherwise. So that's what Kevin drafted. And like I said, I felt, I just have some very minor tweaks to it, but I don't know how we want to proceed if people don't have a copy of this in front of them. But like I said, I think it's just a very, very solid starting point. And I just honestly just have a couple minor tweaks to it. I think it's that close to being ready.
Well, listening to how you presented it, just for me, and I jotted down some notes, it seems, I totally agree with you. I think that was a great job, Kevin. You kind of summed everything up for us. Mr. Hornick, you said you had a few tweaks. You'd like to discuss those?
Yeah, I think the first tweak I'd like to put in there is some kind of two statements. The first being that something like ideal street locations would have multiple of these criteria met. So that if a street was hitting multiple on the criteria list that Kevin developed, it would move that street as a higher street on, for our consideration. And then I also think we also need to put in here some kind of statement saying when funds are available, because there's a limit. We just because residents might see it and say, well, it checks all these criteria, but if we don't have the money,
correct.
So I think those two, those would be two of my recommendations. And then I would like to see something about school zones added down, either maybe not in this first draft, but down the road. I wouldn't, if we do have more money at some point that becomes available for these things, I'd like to see some of these signs maybe end up on Forest or Park and I'm blanking the what is it, Bridle Path by Southgate.
By
Saddlewoods, Laurel.
Saddley and Laurel, yeah. So I'd like to see eventually us getting to the school zones too, but I think right now, as sad as it is, I think we have higher priorities than just the school zones. But I'd like to see that as a potential criteria added. And then, I think we as a committee just have to discuss some of those numbers where Kevin even suggested in his draft document that the committee needs to provide some feedback in terms of what we see the numbers as. So those are my, like I said, I had very minor changes or very minor recommendations.
Does anybody else on the committee have some things?
Well, I have a copy of the in front of me, and I think I'd be happy to leave it like it is, since we're going to analyze it with the number of matching for each street. And that will eliminate any streets that aren't falling into this. But unless Dan has something on his mind to change, but I think what's on there would be, wouldn't hurt to go with that for a start.
I have a few comments when you're ready.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, like everyone else said, I just want to thank Kevin that you did a good job on that. You really did a great job. I have just on the parts that you left, open for discussion. I think we should talk about the 85th percentile. Isn't that the standard that gets used, Kevin?
Yeah.
So what that means for everybody else is that 85% of the cars are traveling at that speed or higher, right?
Correct. What I did have a chance to do this past week was I grabbed a handful of the traffic counts that you already have done on certain streets we were looking at, Locust. I even looked at Sand Creek and Harriet to kind of come up with those numbers, volumes versus not just the 85th percentile, but what percentage was above the actual speed limit. And I come to light. I think the daily traffic volume number we're looking at is more around 1,000 car range.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be my second comment. I thought the volume was low because remember, we're only going to have a limited number of these signs. So, I mean, almost every street in the village would meet what you had on the other one, 500 to 1,200.
Yeah, there's some streets out there getting 450 a day, 500 a day. So
Yeah.
Again, I wasn't 100% sure, but after reviewing it, that should be bumped up. I'm not sure again, the low end of that range might want to be about 1,000. 1,000 to 1,500 per se.
Yeah, something like that. I agree.
The 85th percentile speed, I threw in there a target of 10 miles an hour because a lot of this I used from the criteria for the speed humps. And actually, I think that 10 mile an hour over the 85th is kind of high. And what I did see is that you come up with a pace speed on the street, and then it also gives the number of cars in pace, and then it also gave a percentage over the speed limit per se itself, which I found a very interesting number. I looked at the speed counts for Pine Avenue, and I assume that was after the speed humps. And it's got that percentage over the speed limit way down to 6%, which is phenomenal. Tells me, hey, speed humps work, or they just move the traffic on another street. But on streets such as Locust and Sand Creek Road, you got percentages of 43 and 85% vehicles going over the speed limit. So I think that's a bigger red flag to say, hey, there is a speeding issue here. And that may need to be, if we can get the bigger numbers educated and reduced down, that may trickle down to some of the other streets per se.
I also would like to add to that the deputy mayor and I were talking before last meeting, and it was suggested that we put one in each. If we're going to take a street, we probably want to have one going in each direction. Correct?
Yeah, I would say on most of the streets, not on all of them, but
Correct.
there's a few that might be individual.
Right. It depends on the geometry of the roadway
Right.
and the neighborhood.
Like take Lincoln Avenue you're probably going to need one, a third of the way or going in one direction and a third of the way coming back the other way. You know, if
Kevin,
it's a shorter street, you may not need to do that.
Right.
Kevin, did you have your hand up still? Or is
No,
it-
I'm sorry about that.
Want to make sure that I'm not getting to you.
So Kevin, I just want to make sure on the speed issue. Are you saying that we should go more on the average number of cars over the speed limit, a certain amount, or go with the 85th?
I'm kind of leaning that way, yeah. I mean, I guess my next thing would be to get Jason involved and find out, because they're out there enforcing the speed on these streets. And quite honestly, they can give you probably a better idea of where the speeding takes place on Street A or Street B. They're out there every day doing it. And that would be a better criteria, a better avenue to look as to where we really want to place it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But they use the 81st percentile to develop speed limits, you know.
I think if I could chime in here, I very much agree with Kevin here. I think that once we, have some generic standards adopted, I think we should leave in terms of physically where on the street. I think we should leave that in the hands of Public Works with the advice of Colony Police Department. I think that'd be micromanaging on our parts. Once we set some criteria, let's let the people with the expertise figure out exactly where on the street to put them. That's my 2 cents on the where to put them.
I agree.
I agree with you as well. Again, it was a great job, Kevin. You did.
Thank you.
Journeying down for us, and I think we have enough to go with. And after all, these are just recommendations by this committee that go to the village board trustees. And we have Deputy Mayor Sim with us, and it sounds to me like we're going in the right direction here. So I guess before I move on to the next issue, you do have your hand back up, Kevin.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a note, bring it to everybody's attention that I used a lot of the should, shall, and may terminologies. Ed, I'm sure you're very aware of this. Or when you look through the manuals, traffic manuals and whatnot, they use that as a tool on what they have to do, what they could do, or what you may do. And I think if we, some of those I said as shall, you may want to change that to should or whatnot, determining on how much bite you want to have in your rules. And you could also you could put it as maybe you have multiple of these together. If you should have multiples of these together, it would be, like Dan said, put further up on the list of looking at or advancing it as far as putting it in. So
yeah, that sounds good.
Can I make one other point?
Sure.
Are we comfortable using some of the existing speed studies we've already done, so that when the funds become available, we can get these things out there hopefully this year versus having to do a completely new traffic study, or are we envisioning doing new speed studies on some of these priority roads?
I got to tell you right off the bat here, listening to that question, I don't see why we need to do. I mean, maybe some streets, if there's newer streets or there's certain things in the village, but we have a pretty good handle on, with all the various speed studies we've done. I mean, I think we should entertain using the current results that we have, unless things change in the future. Unless traffic patterns change, immensely. Like, we've been talking about the Sand Creek corridor. Once many other homes and businesses take up residence down on the or up on the north end, then we might want to do another study of the Sand Creek corridor. But for now, the streets that we've identified, I think we've done a great job over the past few years of doing studies, and I would, for one, recommend that we use those current studies.
I would concur that we would use it as long as it's not like really old, you know, something within the last few years.
Correct.
And 3 years maybe. And then also if you had a street that was whatever we said as the criteria that was on the cusp,
Yep.
we might want to do a new study to see, depending, again, how old the study we were looking at was.
Right.
Well, if there's nothing else on that, I think.
Can I just,
Forward that. Oh, Les, yeah.
yeah, I just have one question. I looked up some of these units and a couple of different companies. Are we looking at a battery powered or solar, just for my knowledge?
Solar.
Solar, so they can be put basically anywhere. There's no trees or whatever blocking the sun. Okay, thank you.
All righty. So without further ado, I think we should, forward this information on to the board. And if the board needs us to do any more work on our end, research, they can let us know, and we'll do whatever it takes to make.
Mr. Chairman, would you like a formal motion on that one?
Yes, please.
All right, then I will formally move that we forward these recommended criteria on to the village board based on the excellent work of Mr. France, with the with the approval of the traffic committee. And I think there was a little talk of adding in that idea of some clause about hitting, if a street hits multiple. I'd like to see that added in before it gets forwarded, but I move that we do forward this document onto the village board.
I'll second that.
We have seconded by Mr. Judge. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? So moved. I would like to now turn it over to Mr. Judd. I'm sorry,
Frank, before we move on, can somebody send me a copy of that just so I can forward it on? Because I'll be doing the forwarding to the board. I don't know. I wasn't sure who had copies or who didn't, so.
Kevin, would you be able to send that to?
Yeah, I'll send that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Well, at this time, I'd like to open it up for Mr. Judge to talk about the slow down signs and the placement that we have scheduled coming up.
Oh, thank you, Frank. I sent out a list that everyone, if you didn't get it, I can resend it. The lawn signs are basically, we're going to start May 2nd and we're going to continue it through October 3rd. We're going to have the signs up for about 5 months. What that entails is there's work to be done on 12 Saturdays. And the list that I put out breaks it down for everyone. This year, it's slightly different than last year. We had a lot more call-in people that wanted it. So I actually, in addition to all the streets that we had, I actually have 2 call-in lists. And I incorporated that down, list A and list B. And it's all broken down on the sheets that I sent out. What we're going to have is on the call-in days, the days that we do the call-in lists, we're going to need 3 people to do it. And I put that on the list. All other days are 2 people. And when we do the signs, all right, I put on the list how many you have to pick up from the DPW, how many you got to drop off. All right. The way it breaks down is every member on the team, except one of us, is doing 5 Saturdays. All right. There's one of us that is only going to do 4. All right. But 5 Saturdays, what everyone's going to be doing. And pretty much the way I broke it up, nobody's going to do 2 Saturdays in a row. All right. So it should go pretty smoothly. I think that's the highlights. We did check inventory. We got plenty of signs. We got plenty of frames. So I don't see any issues. And the first Saturday, it'll be May 2nd. Dan Hornig and myself will start it off. And then the list will it'll just progress through. And that's pretty much all I got to report, Frank.
Well, I want to again thank you, Mr. Judge. You take such a leading role in this, getting the schedule up. even to making sure that I know a lot of times when I go on and do this, you make sure that I have my signs from the DPW all set, ready to go. And it just makes it so much easier for us doing that. And I appreciate everybody on this committee and working together as a team.
It is a team effort, and we've had the members they want to help even beyond the days that they're listed. I had several of the members say, hey, if you need help any other day, call me. And that's invaluable. And I want to thank all you too, like Frank said.
I did have a recent hip replacement, so I don't know how quickly I'm going to bounce back from that. But I see that I'm on here on the 15th of May, so that should be fine. And if I run into a problem, I'll definitely let you know, but definitely should be fine.
Hey, Frank, one thing we did learn last year, when we put these up, I put the list out for like Saturdays, all right, just for uniformity, just to get everybody to do them kind of uniform. But if people have that weekend listed and they can't make Saturday morning, if they wanted to do it Friday or, Thursday night or Friday morning or whenever, the main fact is we want to have it up for 2 weeks. So when their name is up there within a day or two, as long as that Monday, the following Monday after list, it's up for 2 weeks, that's all we care about. So I know the list kind of lays it out, but if you don't follow it, it doesn't really matter. It's just the important thing is we get them up. It doesn't have to be done on Saturdays. Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's also great, knowing that we have that flexibility. I personally, like the idea of being with a partner, hitting the streets on Saturday morning. But again, that really helps us out. If we can't do a Saturday, you want to do it Friday afternoon, you're all welcome to do that. I just think it's an awesome thing that we're able to get those signs and we're able to rotate them throughout the village. And does anybody remember the name of the company that made those signs for us? They gave them to us.
Infamous Graphics.
Infamous Graphics. I want to do a shout out to them. Infamous Graphics. They're on Central Avenue and Lancey, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they've been great to us with that.
Frank, another thing too, as the signs go up, people are going to be calling in. They see them, and that's when we seem to get an influx of calls for more signs. And for Jamie's records or Alex's, I don't know who's going to film, but we don't have. Julianne did a great job of keeping the list up, but somebody's going to have to take over in the office if they call in. So, Jamie, if you want to just touch base with Julianne sometime and ask her what she's doing with the list.
So Alex and I are both checking Julianne's emails and correspondence, and we have her computer set up that we're able to get on that and maintain anything she was doing. Alex routinely will be covering for this meeting, but she had an obligation tonight. So between her and I, we'll make sure that gets attended to.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So
Jamie, we do expect her to be back sometime in June also, right?
Yes, and she actually let the committee know that at the last meeting. They asked when to expect her back, and she said June 1st. So yeah, she will be back and be right back on top, right around, probably when the season will start getting heavy with calls.
So speaking of that, did she have the baby?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yep, she had a little boy. His name is Henry, and everybody's doing great. So
Excellent.
yeah.
Very good.
And I have one other quick thing somewhat related to this sign placements. At one point we all got village ID cards saying we were traffic committee members, but they had expiration dates on them. I don't know if it might be a good idea if we could get new ones, just so as we're going through picking up the signs, people aren't like, hey, you're stealing the signs. So we kind of have them to show the residents, hey, we're on the traffic committee. We're allowed to be the ones moving these. I don't know if that's possible again or not, but the ones we got previous did have expiration dates on them.
If I could touch on that, Courtney Sim, our DPW, she was the one who originally got all those together and put them together. She's actually in helping us while Julianne is out. I do believe our ID maker might be on the fritz, but we can certainly look into a different avenue to get those because we also need employee ones done. So I will touch base with her first thing in the morning and I'll let you guys know through email if that's okay. I don't want to wait until the next meeting to delay that, but I'll let you know for sure what we're going to do about that.
I am glad that you brought that up, Mr. Hornick, because I would advise anytime any of us are doing business related to the village that we wear some kind of a name tag, even if it's expired date or whatever. I just think that's really good in case, well, of anything, in case people want to know who we are, where we're from. You might have our car on the side of the road with the four-ways flashing, and a police officer might want to know what we're doing. These are things that I think would definitely help. So I'm glad that you brought that up. I know serving on the zoning board, it definitely helps because sometimes you're walking to people's yards. You definitely need to have that. So thank you. Is there anything else regarding the sign placements before I move on?
I'm set.
I'm good.
I did want to have, my typical, the street lights in the village. I've noticed there's more on Central Avenue now that are out right in the village. Those nice, beautiful lights that we got. There's a bunch that are now out. I counted just in my drive from my place down Wolf Road up Central Avenue to Bly. I counted 11 lights out in that short drive. So again, there's a couple reasons why I bring it up. One, the power is going to the pole. We're paying for the power regardless if the light's on or not. And the other thing is we want the lights. It makes everyone safer. Had a lot of pedestrian accidents over the past few years, these things. So I guess it goes back to, I believe the people reporting these, besides myself, whenever I can, are the security patrol of the village. Am I still correct on that?
Yes, you're correct. They had not been working with the pandemic, but I believe as things start to open up, we'll have them back. But basically, you should just be forwarding those to the village hall, and they have a number to call. They can call them in immediately.
Yeah, and Deputy Mayor, that is absolutely the truth, and they're great about that. Every time that I've turned in a light pole number, they get right to it. Problem we have though is the ones on Central Avenue are very difficult to get. You have to pull over safely and then get out and walk over to it and get the number. Sometimes it's not that safe, especially until my hip gets better. I don't want to get bumped by a vehicle out there, but
I would suggest, Frank, what you do is get a hold of Les Decker, and he can have
Okay.
someone from the DPW verify what pole number it is so that we can
all right.
call it in accurately.
All right. I mean, that's really all I have. I just, I think you guys are doing a fantastic job, and it's a pleasure to work with you all. And don't forget, Election Day is coming right up here. Anybody that's on YouTube. And,
Frank, I had one thing before you. I don't know whether you're thinking of signing off or not. I have one thing. 2 meetings ago, we had some complaints about Castleman Solar. And in the meeting minutes last month, it said that Ed or someone, I think Ed was going to volunteer to talk to Castleman Solar. And I was just wondering if that meeting ever happened.
It did not. And I will take care of that. I think.
I didn't want to, like Ed, like you said, I don't want to forget it. When we make a
No,
commitment, we should do it.
You're right. I think it got neglected. I mean, I say it did not. It did not on my part. So
Okay.
I apologize for that.
I do want to thank I do want to thank Deputy Mayor Sim for taking the bull by the horns and sitting in on the committee. I always get the acronym wrong, but it's Capital District Transportation or something like that.
CDTC, right?
CDTC. And since you've been doing that and representing us, it gives, I believe, a lot more leverage when it comes to wanting to be a part of, the various changes and traffic things going on around the village, correct?
We actually have a twofold approach there, thanks to Dan Hornick's help with that. We are attending their monthly meetings, which right now are Zoom meetings. And then Mayor Tobin has been appointed to, I'm not sure what the title of it, I'm going to call it a steering committee that meets quarterly of the municipal leaders. So, we're getting actively involved in that with some hopes of maybe securing some funding, particularly for Sand Creek Road.
Well, I thank you all, everybody involved in that. I know that Julianne was also involved in that. I myself sat in on one meeting, but I know you guys have taken the bull by the horns there, and that just helps us a lot. So, thank you guys. Is there anything else before?
I have one other thing, Frank, if I could.
Sure.
I'm sure you all saw that the American Rescue Plan was passed by Congress. And in that is some funding, potential funding, I should say, to local municipalities. We are hopeful that we may get something. There's different things that it can be used for. One of it is for infrastructure. So we're hoping that maybe that would help us with our whole road situation and paving situation and things of the like. So again, fingers crossed that things continue to go the way they're talking, and we do end up with some of that funding. As we do, I'll be able to announce that. So, but without that, right now, things are still tenuous as far as budgeting. We're putting our budget together for the next fiscal year, which starts June 1st. We actually have a public hearing in April on this budget. The revenues are down because of the lack of sales tax, because of things being closed. So budget's tight right now. We're hoping that maybe some of that federal funding will help us a little bit. So I just want to give you an update of where we are. And I know that we were moving full steam ahead a year ago on doing some of these projects, but everything has been put on hold. So that's where we're at with that.
And Danny Judge, I know I mentioned before, but if you ever can set up a meeting with the state, I'm not pushing for it, but every could, I would love.
Yeah,
to
the
discuss-
problem, Dan, I've been trying to set up different things. Right now, everybody's virtual. Some people don't answer, they're working out of their houses. They don't answer. I really don't think it's even feasible to discuss until everybody starts getting back in person.
Okay, yeah, if we get out a few months, maybe we can bring it up. But the issue I wanted to bring up was the timing of lights on Central Avenue. I'm starting to get aggravated, and I hear people talking about them, and that's all I wanted to bring up.
No, you're right. You're right. It is an issue, and I just, like I said, our experience, anytime we're trying to deal with any of the state agencies,
Oh, I can't imagine.
we're not getting too far because most of them aren't working in the office.
All right, yeah, please don't feel I'm bugging you. I got a
Oh,
concern.
no, not at all.
I don't know how
Not at
to
all.
address it.
It's a concern. I agree.
All right, thank you.
Hey, this is John Gillivan. I apologize. I joined the meeting a little late. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, I
Yeah,
can hear
John.
you.
All right. So two things. The Sand Creek corridor study, Ed Sim. We have not heard anything back from CDDC about. I saw the linkage projects, and we weren't on that list, that short list. So I attend the CDTC BPAC meeting once a month, and but you have not heard anything in regards to the Sand Creek corridor study grant.
No, we have not.
Okay.
I mean, other than the one that got denied. Is that what we did? It was denied.
That was 2 years ago, though, right?
Yeah, a year
Year and a half. Yeah. But the most recent,
before the pandemic. Yes.
yeah, the more recent one that you applied for, back in December or January this year? I think. Didn't you reapply for another corridor study for Sand Creek?
I'm going to be honest with you, John. I don't think it got done because of all the stir and commotion with the pandemic. I don't think we applied.
Okay. All right. No problem. I just was wondering about that. There is that you mentioned about the American Rescue Plan, the federal funding. I did see that on the news this morning. Albany County is due to get 60 million, I think. I'm just throwing numbers out. I think Schenectady and Saratoga were half that, but so we don't know what portion of that 60 million we'll get for the village or.
No, we don't. That's what I'm saying to you. And there's been a lot of talk on a lot of this stuff.
Right.
And until we actually get the money, we don't know. And the other problem is the way it's routed. If it gets routed through the state, sometimes a percentage gets taken off of it, and sometimes they replace your other funding with that, so your net gain is zero. So
Okay.
until all that happens, we don't know the actual impact it's going to make
Right.
on it.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that clarification. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Can I just chime in real quick on CDTC? Just so people on the committee are aware, in my experience, sometimes you do have to submit applications for the same project 2 and 3 times. But every time you probably move up the list. And I think that's what Frank and Ed were talking about earlier. That's, the fact that we are now participating regularly and have the mayor sitting on the planning committee. That's going to help us move up quicker every time we apply, even if we, and who knows, maybe the next one we do get, maybe it only takes 2 applications, but there are some projects I know that end up on that list, get applied for multiple times before they actually get funded. And so I think the best solution is to just keep putting in the applications and maybe with some of the additional clout that the village is starting to get here because of the mayor and Ed's and Frank's and everybody's efforts, maybe that helps us move up that project a lot quicker.
Yep. Good point, Dan. Yeah, I think the persistence, it pays off with that type of those type of grants. One other thing, maybe it's premature, Deputy Ed Sim, Deputy Mayor. Has there been any discussion about the Family Day being a possibility of that happening or not this June?
We don't think we're going to have it.
Okay. All right. Is there any talk about maybe postponing it to later in the year?
We've had that discussion. We're definitely not going to be in June. That we're kind of leaving it open-ended if we could do it towards the end of the year. Again, we're kind of theorizing what's going to be happening, so we don't really know what the summer is going to look like. So
yep.
Right.
No, I understand.
So we'll make that decision as we get a little closer.
Okay. Because I applied for a Coexist mini grant for the Village of Colony Bike Safety Day. And I deferred that from 2020 to 2020 to this year, 2021. It doesn't have to happen. I guess if it doesn't happen again this year, maybe I can defer it again to 2022. But I did get $5,000 to conduct that, to help assist in that. And then I also got another grant for called a Twin Cities Ride. We're trying to connect Albany and Schenectady probably in the town or the Village of Colony. We're bringing bike riders, families, kids, adults from the 2 areas, and I got to see how that we can even conduct that. I believe I got the grant for that as well. So, but I just wanted to. That's what I was asking about the Family Day. But yeah, I totally understand. It's still too premature to even probably make any discussion.
It's up in the air. Our summer events are up in the air at this point. We're going to evaluate them probably sometime in May.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Jason?
Yeah,
Jason,
George.
it was mentioned that Colony Police would be able to give us reports in the future of accidents in the village. Has that come about yet, or is that available yet?
We're still doing a transition from our old records management to a new CAD system. So
Next year.
the switchover hasn't been completed, but there's some information that I can get for, whenever you need it,
Okay.
whether it's road specific, intersection specific, and then we can kind of break it down to the time of day, the nature of the crashes.
Right. Well, you know where the heaviest ones are, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You give us some input into the criteria that we're trying to get for those.
well, we're
signs.
having a huge issue with Central Avenue right now, George. A huge problem with Central Avenue, specifically in the village.
Yeah.
From Wolf Road to 155 has become a huge chopping block for our crashes, our traffic-related issues, whether it's disputes or reckless drivers or erratic driving, red light issues, passing stop school buses. So, and now with the warm weather, we saw probably 3 or 4 dozen motorcycles out today. That's a whole nother ball of wax that we're going to have to address. So,
All right. When that starts coming automatic, then that'd be a bigger help. Frank, are you still there?
yeah,
Yeah, I'm still here, George.
Okay. One thing that we can't do now, there's no money for it, but I want to make sure the crosswalk on Sand Creek to the park doesn't get lost. That's something, just the installing a small sidewalk on that turn across the way would make it eligible for a crosswalk there. But if we can keep that on the list to look at once money starts coming.
Yeah, I think that's good to keep it on the burner. I don't think anybody's opposed to that as long as it's something that we can legally do. And yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because I had brought up at the last meeting something. Deputy Mayor, if you could take this back to the board, the Bower Park trail systems. I know last year were pretty beat up. The boards, the rotted out, so on. People having to take their bicycles off the trail and walk them, and my mother uses it quite often, and it's can be very tough. And I know that DPW probably doesn't have a lot of time to be going through there. But I also mentioned there's always Boy Scout, Cub Scout, or Boy Scout badges and people wanting to earn things, and maybe something we could check into if people want to help repair that Bower Park Trail. That would be great.
Okay, we can look into it. The DPW does go and replace boards. I don't want to say regularly, but they do it a fair amount of times. The problem is there's just so much of it, and sometimes the kids even vandalize it, so it makes it even worse.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that too, and there was just so much rot on it though, because it's very damp back. It's a swamp, so it's very damp. But I had this thought of scouts, because I know that with COVID and stuff, they've probably had less and less projects they've been able to work on. This would be a great one if we could get scout troops involved.
We'll bring that up.
Thank you. Anybody else before we sign off?
Mr. Chairman, if you got a second.
I do.
All right, so I will take on Castleman Energy either tomorrow or Monday.
Okay.
And while I'm in the meeting, I've sent Barbara from Fuller Terrace an email. I will have her contact me. I will get as much information about the issue we're having on Fuller Terrace and see if we can't start addressing that at some point next week.
Oh, perfect. So I won't even have to make that call to Barb then.
I already sent her an email as we were sitting here having our Zoom meeting.
Thank you.
I gave her my name and my information, and when she reaches out to me, we can pinpoint time of day, direction of travel, days of the week, and we'll try and pinpoint our enforcement efforts that way.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Jason, thank you very much, and thank you for bailing me out on the Castleman Solar.
I'll take care of it, Mr. Mayor. Absolutely. It's on my list of things to do, so I'll be more than happy to pay the manager a visit.
That's a huge help there. I think I'm hearing less periodically.
Yes, Frank.
Yes, Les.
My daughter is here. I'm still on her phone, and she's a leader in the Girl Scouts. And she said she could bring that project up at the next regional meeting, I guess. So leader meeting for the Girl Scouts. So
that'd be fantastic. Yeah, fantastic.
So she will get back to me, and I will get back to you when they have their next meeting.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Lauren.
You're welcome.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
yes.
Les makes the motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
That
Mr.
was
Judge.
Mr. Judge.
Yes,
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, so moved until next month.
Okay. Take care, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.